Christine Silawan. On March 11, 2019, the body of 16-year-old Christine Lee Silawan was found in a vacant lot in Barangay Bangkal in Lapu-Lapu City, Cebu. Half of her face was skinned to the skull and her body had multiple stab wounds. She was also naked from the waist down. Before her murder, it was reported that she had an unidentified boyfriend who supposedly used a fake Facebook account to lure her into meeting him. Further investigation discovered that the suspect had posed as another man on Facebook trying to quote-unquote court her. An autopsy also further reveals that her tongue, trachea, esophagus, parts of her neck, and her right ear were missing. A month later, on April 11th, the PNP or Philippine National Police presented 42-year-old Renato Lienes to the media as the self-confessed perpetrator of the crime. According to his account of what happened, he and Christine met on March 10th for the first time after a few weeks of chatting on Facebook. He then proceeded to use a dummy account and posed as a much younger guy named CJ Diaz. Upon meeting with each other, Renato told Christine that he was CJ's driver and that he would take her to him. However, Christine got wind of his pretense and on their way to the barangay, a fight ensued. Lienes would then violate Christine and stab her repeatedly on different parts of her body using a pair of scissors and then scrape the skin of her face so that she wouldn't be recognized. Renato himself would be found dead inside his prison cell on May 24, 2020. He was facing trial for this brutal crime. Nida Blanca. On November 7, 2001, veteran Filipina actress Nida Blanca's lifeless body was found in the backseat of her car parked in a condominium building in Green Hills. She was found slumped and her body bore multiple stab wounds on her face, back, and abdomen. These stab wounds on her neck proved to be fatal as they reached her larynx and cut her jugular vein. She also sustained hematoma in both eyes and had broken ribs on both sides of her body, signs that she was bludgeoned repeatedly before she was murdered. There was a trail of blood of a few meters to the car and there were no fingerprints inside, suggesting that the crime might have been committed outside and her body was dumped in the car right after. 3 weeks later, 53-year-old Philip Medel surrendered to the police and owned up to committing the murder as a professional hit job. Now, you might be asking, who engaged the hitman's services? It turns out that Nida's American husband Rod Strunk had Nida killed to inherit a portion of her estimated 85 million pesos fortune. It took the authorities 8 months after Philip's confession to file parricide and murder cases against Rod and Philip respectively. But by then, Rod had already been staying in the US for 6 months. He was later arrested and briefly detained in California but was never forced to return to the country to stand trial as the US government denied the Philippine government's 2 extradition requests. Unfortunately, Rod took his own life in 2007, leaving Philip as the lone suspect until his own death in jail in 2010. With that, the case is now sadly closed without being solved. The Visconde Massacre. On June 30, 1991, 47-year-old housewife Estrelita Visconde and daughters Carmela, age 18, and Jennifer, age 7, were found dead in their residence in BF Homes in Parañaque. Their bodies bore a total of 49 stab wounds, 13 on Estrelita, 17 on Carmela, 19 on Jennifer. Carmela was found to have been violated. The case languished for 4 years without any solid leads until the NBI asset Jessica Alfaro came forward and presented herself as an eyewitness. She identified a group of 8 young men from prominent families as the perpetrators of the crime, including Hubert Webb, son of former basketball star, actor, and Senator Freddie Webb. According to her testimony, she was with the group when they went to the Visconde house and saw firsthand Hubert violating Carmela on the floor in the master bedroom as the lifeless bodies of Estrelita and Jennifer lay on the bed. Carmela was gagged, moaning, and in tears during the whole ordeal until 2 others in the group violated her too before stabbing her repeatedly to death. Jessica said the entire gang was high on shabu and Hubert planned the gang violation even before the group went to the house in an apparent fit of jealousy after learning that Carmela was with another guy that night. This testimony became much of the basis for the guilty verdict and reclusion perpetua sentence that the judge handed down on all of the accused in January 2000. 10 years later, on December 14, 2010, the Supreme Court reversed the lower court's decision and acquitted Hubert and 6 of his co-accused. Apparently, the Supreme Court cast doubts on Jessica's credibility as an eyewitness and found her testimony, quote-unquote, incoherent if not inherently unbelievable, riddled with holes and inconsistencies. The 7 justices based its decision on the following points: the loss of DNA evidence not a ground for outright acquittal, unreliability of Jessica Alfaro's testimony, Apparently, Alfaro had prior knowledge on the facts of the case, having been an asset of the National Bureau of Investigation, and Alfaro was not able to explain why the house was ransacked if robbery was not the motive of Webb and his group. The third part is unreliability of testimonies from other witnesses, and apparently Hubert Webb's strong alibi that he was in the United States. The justices particularly lent credence to Hubert's denial and alibi that he was in the United States at the time of the crime. After spending 15 years in prison, Hubert and the rest walked free shortly after the announcement of the acquittal. This is such an interesting and sad case personally because it became one of the most sensational cases in the Philippines during the 1990s, being described as a trial of the century. Sadly, the case now remains unsolved to this day and nothing really came out after the acquittal, and I doubt any new information would come out, especially now that it's 2025. Rest in peace to the entire family.